Blessings. Welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're in Isaiah chapters 41 through 43. And I just want to say this as we move forward, and I wish I'd said this a long time ago. Sometimes we get into books, chapters, verses, which are hard to understand. And Isaiah today, for me, was a little difficult to understand, especially chapter 41. I had to go to some commentaries and some study Bibles that have lots of notes in them to read kind of what other people and scholars have interpreted this to mean. And I had one question in particular, and I'll mention that to you. But don't get discouraged when you're reading this. I mean, that's what iron sharpens iron, man. That's what we're here for. And if you have questions, I've said this before, I'll say it probably 10 more, 20 times before we're done. My email, chuck@fcpo.org, is there. Is right, whatever. I don't know. Right there, maybe. Anyway, shoot me an email, and I'm going to tell you right now, I may not know the answer to your question, but there's enough commentaries, information out there. There's other people, especially like Paul Lee, people in FCPO that I trust, that I can glean from. So we'll find the information, and if we can't, we'll just flat out say, some things are a mystery. God does not reveal everything to us, not right now. I think He will later, but through the progression of the Bible, God has slowly revealed Himself to us as time has gone on. And there's still a lot of revelation to be done. So we're not going to know everything. But some questions we can glean from each other and get answers. So anyway, chapter 41, I read it, was confused as to who the servant was, because it mentioned Israel, it mentioned Jacob. So I went to some of the commentaries, and the funny thing is, they don't all agree. What does that tell you? We may not actually know the answer yet, but I had a couple that would say that the nation of Israel was God's servant in this, and then one just said, hey, what does the Bible say about it? What does it say in Matthew chapter 12 about this? And then, again, we'll get into that. Verse 41, it says, Isaiah is prophesying about God bringing all the nations together for judgment. And we're all about judgment, justice, all that. Chapter 42 is great about justice, and we're going to read that. People have been worshiping worthless idols. That's what this chapter is telling us. But Israel will all be called back from all the corners of the nations, from the north and the south and the east and the west, and He'll bring them all back to Israel. And we know in 1948 that the United Nations declared Israel a nation again. Basically, Europe had Israel established as a nation through the United Nations, so that all the refugees from World War II would have some place to go back to. So they said, hey, Jews, Hebrews, we'll give you back your old homeland. And the Arabs have been fighting to get that land back ever since. Actually, they've been fighting since Abraham over this land. But then God says He's going to call His servant who will bring justice. And it talks about Jacob, but then it gives this quote at the very beginning of chapter 42, and it's verses 1 through 4, and it says, behold, my servant, and servant has a capital S, which tells me, it gives me a real big clue as to who it is. It says, whom I uphold, my chosen one, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him, and him is a capital H. He will bring forth justice to the nations. He will not cry out or raise his voice, nor make his voice heard in the streets. A bruised reed He will not break, and a dimly burning wick He will not extinguish. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not be disheartened or crushed until He has established justice in the earth. And the coastlands will wait expectantly for His law. Now, I want to go to Matthew chapter 12, verses 17 through 21. And this is a description of Jesus. And it Quote, this was to fulfill what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet. Behold my servant who I have chosen, my beloved in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall proclaim justice to the Gentiles. He will not quarrel, nor cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A battered reed he will not break off, and a smoldering wick he will not put out, until he leads justice to victory. And in his name the Gentiles will hope. So Jesus is the one, according to Matthew, that's going to bring justice to victory. And he's going to do it in a very peaceful way, a non-violent way. And we know that when Christ was on this earth, he fulfilled this. He did not lead a rebellion. He fulfilled every bit of this. So, in my opinion, Christ fulfills all of this. And when he brought justice to this earth, in other words, he brought a way through the Spirit of God that we could all come to know Christ directly. The temple veil was broken in, or split in two, and he gave us direct access to God. He left so the Holy Spirit could come and indwell us and allow us to be a people that are free from sin and free from the law. We are a people under grace. So anyway, I'm running out of time. Great read. Still haven't gotten to 43 yet. But hey, when I was taught to be a police officer in the early days, I was taught also that we would bring justice through peace and without violence, if at all possible. That's our goal, to gain voluntary compliance. That's why the very first step of the force continuum was officer presence. Peace and without violence. But we live in a fallen world, and we have to combat violence with violence now. But we are still the thin blue line, the men and women who stand on the wall and warn people of the evil that's coming. Tomorrow we're going to be in Isaiah 44 through 47. So read ahead, come back here. Let's look for law enforcement takeaways. And in the meantime, you guys be safe.